Okay, everybody, 6 o'clock, let's call the meeting to order for the Costa Mesa Citizen Advisory Committee for January 10th, 2024. That's the first time I've had to say that. Should we take roll? So I'm fumbling with my phone here.
Okay, Francesca Normington,
Here.
Rosemary Chora. Here. Jeff Arbor,
Here.
Dicky Fernandez,
Here.
Dean Fisher,
Here.
Cindy Brenneman.
Here.
And Chair Sue Lester.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to public comments. Do we have anybody in space wanting to say anything? You can see? Anybody? Okay, let's go ahead and close public comments. And move to the first item, which is to approve the Citizen Advisory Committee meeting minutes from November 8th, 2023. I'm assuming everybody had a chance to read those. Do I have a motion to approve or any comments?
Motion to approve. I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nobody? Okay, I guess we're good. Let's move on to item 2. It says receive and file waste composition study number 7 and number 8 from Michael. Is he gonna give us a
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe he,
presentation?
Happy New Year, by the way, for our Citizens Advisory Committee. And I believe Mike does not need any introduction. Everyone knows who Mike is. He's been here before. So he's glad to have introduced Mike, though, by to be back with us today. He's going to give us the results of his latest composition study. This is number 7 and number 8. And he's going to share those results to you and be able to answer any questions. So Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Welcome back.
Evening, everybody. The sort 7 and 8 could be summarized with it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So sort 7 was south of Sunflower near South Coast Drive between Fairview and Bear. And that area unfortunately had the highest contamination level of any sort this year at 30%. They didn't do a bad job on the food waste side. They were at about 9.17%. So again, that is under 10%, pretty good range, but there was what appeared to be a large bush and a large succulent that happened to be in our sample. Again, what we do is we have the truck dump, we lay out cones, we do a random sampling of containers where we put it right in that box that we've created, and whatever's in there is what we get to sort. So this one, I wouldn't say no gold star for that group, but I think they had some bad luck in that it looked like somebody was doing a big yard cleanup and they filled up the green waste container and they had more bushes and this big succulent. And unfortunately, that was part of our sample. Again, for contamination, we range anywhere from a low of 10% to a high of 30%. And what we consider contamination in your container, which is your trash containers, any green waste or food waste. So again, this study was a bit skewed, I believe. And again, we do have the photos of that on page 3, and you'll see it's hard to tell how wet the material was, but it was also a bit wet, very freshly cut. So the food waste, again, at 9.17% is not bad. But again, I would consider at a level that your hauler may charge a contamination fee in a container would be 15 to 20%. So overall, if you're at 9%, that's not bad. So they're doing a good job with that. We're actually looking at sort 8 here. So sort 8 had the lowest green waste contamination of any area that we found. And this is the neighborhood behind T. Winkle School was the one that we did this sort for. Unfortunately, they were a little bit higher than we would like to see on the food waste. So actually, our recommendation for this route is to do some extra dedication on keeping the food waste out of the trash container. Again, 12 to 13% isn't horrible, but at 15 to 20%, that's where I think contamination fees are possible. So again, they had a very low overall contamination rate and the lowest amount of green waste that we found. So gold star to the Teamville School neighborhood, or Mesa Del Mar, I believe is the correct name. But a little bit higher than optimal on the food waste side. And I can answer any questions anybody has. Yes.
Do I need to use my microphone?
I think it's on, just,
Oh, is it on?
yeah.
Sorry, I just was curious. And I don't remember how many of these we've done.
8 this year.
8 this year. Okay, so it's throughout the year. Okay, the reason I was saying, I know at the landfills, we'll see changing waste, incoming waste composition seasonally and throughout the year. And I noticed that this was like right around or before holiday season. So I was just curious if you see more, I was thinking more food waste potentially, but
Potentially with the holidays, people are probably eating at home more. They have more food, probably more chance of leftovers, or somebody brings a dish that's just absolutely horrible. So throwing it out, but now they got to put it in the food waste recycling container. So there is probably some seasonal variation, although there's no real published studies on food waste generation.
I was just curious if we saw a difference from around the year.
Yeah, no, I think, again, if you look at the amount that we consider trash, usually is about 57% of the container, because again, what we're also looking at is how much is cardboard and paper, beverage containers, easily recyclable items that would migrate to your blue container when you do that switch. And then we also look at wet paper and cardboard that ideally, if it was source separated, it would probably be recyclable. So again, here, as far as the trash, we were at 42% on one, again, because of the heavy skew of green waste, and then 62% on the other. So maybe a little seasonal impact.
Any other questions?
Some of my neighbors are asking me about the plastic recycling and which numbers do actually get recycled, or if all of them get recycled, because they say that.
1 through 7 are technically all recyclable. The challenge is markets. So right now, the 2 that are always recyclable are numbers 1 and 2, PET and HDPE. So like your soda bottles and your milk jugs, that's highly recyclable. We used to have a very good mixed recycling program, but most of those were based in the Pacific Rim. So when China's Green Sword policy hit, it became much more difficult to sell that material. So a lot of those plastics are difficult to recycle. Every few years, the National Polystyrene Association will pour money into an area to show that their material is recyclable and it'll be recycled. But then, unfortunately, those dollars go away and it's not recycled because it's made too well. It's too lightweight. There's no way you can fill a truck up with enough polystyrene to make it economically feasible to recycle. So short answer, probably 1 and 2 are definitely going to be recycled if that goes in the container. The other depends on markets that fluctuate.
So the other question they asked me was, in our service area, which plastics get recycled? Is it 1 and 2? Is it all of them? Is it other?
Well, at times, close to all of them, but not guaranteed. Again, CRNR, and that might be something to follow up with them on. They're constantly looking for markets, and they are a rather big company that does a pretty good job of sorting their materials. Cleaner than most. They're able to find markets. So, again, they do an annual, master manifest for the district where they show what they've sold where. So again, you could have them try to break that out by plastic types, and that would be an interesting report to see for 2023.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I have a question, and I don't know if this will or won't affect anything, or if this was even done during a time when we would know. But OCC recycling is no more. It's been closed for a while, and I don't see it opening anytime soon, which that's a question I'm gonna probably ask you guys later, but do you see that having any sort of effect on all of this? Because there really isn't anywhere else close by geographically like OCC that can take recyclables in Costa Mesa in mass quantities. Do you think that's gonna affect what's going on here?
Probably would see more recyclables going in your container that the hauler's collecting, potentially going in the trash, but hopefully not. Again, and while you have mixed waste processing, most of that stuff will be recovered. There is a pilot program that Costa Mesa is going to start. I think the city of Corona or Chino did it, and it's with a company that's receiving some kind of grant funding, I think, from the state to collect recyclables from residents.
Home recycling, I saw that.
Yeah, so that is something that's going to be publicized fairly shortly. And we'll share that, of course, with the district. But again, it's a shame. Unfortunately, Mike Carey left Orange Coast College Recycling Center, and
The wheels came off the bus. Anybody else? Question? Please.
No, it's not. You stole my question. I was gonna ask the same thing about the increase. I wonder if we're too premature in the effect of Orange Coast closing. We may see that in the beginning studies as we get into 2024. I think we'll see more recyclables in there. But your comment about a private firm coming in to do the recyclables, how does that fit with 1383?
Bless you.
well, 1383 addresses organic wastes. But where it comes into play is potentially locations can get a space constraint waiver if there's not enough room for that container, but that waiver doesn't cover beverage containers. The state still wants those beverage containers recycled. So I think that's why they're experimenting with this home pickup. Because again, there's no way to waive the requirement to recycle your beverage containers.
Yeah, Corona does it, Orange does it, and like San Juan Capistrano, there's like 5 or 6. I just read about it recently. I hadn't heard much about it, but they provide bags and you separate your glass, your plastics, your aluminum. And then when they're full, this company comes, picks it up, takes it, and then they Venmo you whatever your percentage is of what you're recycling above whatever it is they keep. I don't know percentages or anything like that, but I literally had just read about it. It was pretty interesting. Okay, sorry, side topic. Anybody else?
So CC closed, my garage is filling up with Amazon boxes because I used to just take them over.
I don't know if MinCal is still operating in Santa Ana. They were a pretty big recycler, but again, it's more of a track.
Benefit to paying a customer to give to pay the customer directly for the recyclables versus having it put in the cart and then taken by the hauler.
Well, if if a resident calls this home recycle place, they pick up all your stuff that's bagged and they pay you the CRV for your items based on whatever the weight is, as opposed to you paying, you having this stuff hauled away for free for the.
So Scott, this might be a question for Scott then. Does the district get a percentage back of the recyclables that are collected by CRRNA? CR and R.
There's three issues let me address here from what I heard from the community members. First, Community Member Fernandez, regarding the plastics 1 through 7, when we go through to the blue cart system and we start educating the public, we're going to tell the public to throw plastics 1 through 7 in the blue cart. Do not throw those in the trash. So as Mike says, yes, the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plastics are hard to recycle because of the markets, but we still want people to encourage people to put those in the blue carts. Okay. As far as Orange Coast College Recycling Center, our organization has been in discussion with OCC recycling staff on how to get the center back open. And my understanding is they are OCC staff's in discussion with a third-party operator. At this point, I'm not at liberty really. I don't think they want me to make public who that is. I'm trying to reach out to them soon because I like to report out at the liaison committee coming up a week from next Friday about the OCC Recycling Center and who that third party may be. So there might be light in a tunnel that the center could be opening up soon. As far as this new program the city is implementing where a vendor comes in and they take your recyclables and they give you the CRV money, we did address our concerns to the city on that one because the recycling revenues that CNR collects helps offsets the cost of the program. So our concern is that this program is very successful, that's less revenue CNR is going to receive, and therefore there's potentially your rate's going to increase because now there's no revenues to offset costs to provide that curbside program. So we hesitantly blessed the program of the city, but we did address our concerns. So.
Anybody? Everybody? Okay, I think we're good with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, next item, the 2023 community survey results.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's my pleasure to introduce our second guest speaker. I believe he's been here before, spoke to you in the past, Adam Pawlowski. We hired his firm to do our 2023 community-wide survey. And as you recall, we do these community-wide surveys once every 2 years to engage in the community on our level of services, and also we'll engage on a specific issue that we want to hear back from our constituents pertaining that would have an impact in the upcoming year. In this particular survey, and Adam will share the results with you, the one particular question we were wanting to inquire from the public is, would the community accept collecting their trash recyclable 2 days a week? And if they are, would they be willing to pay more? And I think if you've seen the results, I think you'll know what direction we're going to go with from the information we got back from our constituents. So let me bring Adam up and he'll share the results of the survey, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, committee. Luckily I've got a screen here, so forgive me for looking here. We'll go to the next slide, and it's the methodology slide to kind of give you a sense of what, how we did this survey. So this was a very comprehensive in that we were very inclusive of all the targeted people we were trying to accomplish completed surveys from. And those were trash customers, waste and recycling customers who organically are, I believe 100% of them, or very close to that, are also sewer customers as well. Because of the nature of, if you're a trash customer, you're a single family or more small multifamily unit. So all customers of all the services the district provides, offered in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And as you can see, there's 1% chose Vietnamese, you had 7% choose Spanish. So really important to have those in there because you really miss out on that data if you don't have that. We also sent mail, we called, we emailed, we sent text messages, people could call into us. It was a very inclusive process. Pretty much if you wanted to participate, you got to participate. And we got a total of 1,000 that we're reporting on. And so very robust. And just to put into context, talking about a district this size, statewide, we do 1,000 completes. We do 900 completes statewide and really predict outcomes. So really robust survey for a district this size. Okay, next up, key findings, which I'm actually going to kind of skip over. Numbers are good, but I want to actually show you the real numbers. But I'll come back to this kind of with the talking about areas of opportunities. So let's go to the next slide. And 85% have heard of Costa Mesa Sanitary District. That's great. Big number. A couple of things we look at. One is how big the good number is theoretically, and 85% is great. Also, that huge differential, in this case, 14%, because we're rounding up to that 13.8, say they've not heard of the district. So really, really big understanding of who you are, the fact that you exist at least. And if you can see, you'll see, I probably won't reference it so much, but you'll see the numbers year over year that we're reporting very static numbers, very similar to the previous year. So nothing really exciting to report. And just, I think you probably know this, but behind all these numbers are the demographics and all kinds of other information. So we're keeping this to 39 slides, which in itself is pretty robust, but there's hundreds more of background data that may be relevant that you might want to dive into. All right, next slide, we'll go to 52% think the district is a part of the city. Okay, not great. So you got most people, not really clear about how political subdivisions work, and specifically how this agency works. 21% think you're an independent agency. You got 13% think you're a company. 14% don't know, which is even, quite frankly, a little bit surprising to me, because why would they know? You don't get a bill from the district, and you have to be have a little bit of engagement to be able to have a sense of what kind of agency organization you all are. But that is, if that is a policy decision, then that's something you're going to want to figure out how to beef up and explain to the world about what you really do for a living and how you're organized. Next up on slide 5, 66% have a favorable opinion of the district. We gave them the bare minimum, explanation of who you are, that basically 2 sentences of what the district is. And 60% have a favorable opinion of the district. That's up just a little bit of a tick, about 6% from the previous year. And you very small numbers, less than 10%, 8.8, 9% say they have an unfavorable impression of the district. Really, really strong numbers. You might have heard me say it before, but we're not trying to get A's and B's here. We're trying to get consensus. Obviously, if you have 90%, 100%, that's fantastic, but that's just not how really public policy works and government agencies work. So you have this huge difference between that 9% and that's almost 2/3. Really, really strong numbers and an uptick in favorability. That's great to have. Next up, satisfaction with sewer and wastewater services is at 88%. Very small number of people who are unsatisfied on the uptrend there for satisfaction. It just doesn't get much better than that. You are at some level a government agency. You are a government agency, and there's almost anywhere we go, there's a baked in 10% or more that just don't like you because you're a government agency. So the fact that you're doing a service and they're appreciating it is really strong. Next up, we asked them about waste and recycling, trash and recycling services, green waste, organics, 82% satisfied. A little bit more of an unsatisfied at 14%. It's a lot more messy, quite frankly. The sewer and sewer work, I don't really ever see it unless there's a major problem. Whereas trash, I see it every day or whenever it's out. I've got to take the trash out myself. There's other interactions that I've got. So a few more people, but really strong numbers, 82%. That's kind of where we see oftentimes cops and firefighters in city world and county world. So really strong numbers. Next up, we asked specifically about CR&R, and they're at 85%, up from the previous year. Again, just a small number, about 11% who are unsatisfied. So strong numbers for CR&R. Next up, we talk about the amount that people pay for trash and waste trash collection and recycling services. 68% for here. It's about right. So those people are saying don't touch it. It's just fine. You do have almost 20%, 90% who say it's too high. That's going to be a natural thing. Any kind of a thing that I pay for, even though I'm not writing a check for it necessarily, is going to be, we're going to have some people opposing it. And you do have 1.4% that you can charge more to, so that's helpful. And 11%, 12% don't know, and that's fine. The truth is that I think a lot of these people probably don't know, because it's not a reflective monthly thing that they're doing. Slide number 10, the next one, 80% of single-family homeowners or renters say the, I'm sorry. So next up, 65%. Where are we at? Sorry, waste recycling, is that where were we on? Yeah, okay, it's fine. So yeah, just first, slide 9 was just about right for trash collection, and then slide 10 is similar numbers, 80%, even better for waste and sewer and wastewater services. So you're not going to improve these numbers a whole bunch. You're going to have similar numbers unless you change something dramatically. People are happy with how much they're paying, and there's maybe a little bit of bandwidth to go up. All right, next up, slide 11. You've got the we on the same thing here. Okay, all right. I just want to put, we're putting a finer point on that. This is among condo and town homeowners, specifically for their sewer and waste service. So this is a finite group of, is it 3 units or less? 4 units or less of condo or town homeowners or renters, and they're at 65%. Curiously, I don't know why they'd be less happy, because they're, especially even renters in the mix, they're not even paying the bill, but there is a big jump of people that say they're unsure because they're just not familiar with it. All right, slide 12. Whose responsibility is it to pay for the sewer, the pipe that carries the wastewater from the home to the main line? Theoretically, these are good numbers if you want people to be educated. So 47% say that they say it's the property owner. That's a good starting place. It's a good foundation. But if the goal is to have everyone really truly understanding who's committed to this thing, then you probably want to step up that education process. Because, the city and the county are right on the heels, and the state are basically rival what people think for that the homeowner pays. So this may be an initiative if that's necessary. Next up, have you had contact with the district in any capacity in the last 12 months? Most people say no. That's logical. But you do have 23% that say yes. Very similar numbers to the year before. So not a whole lot of difference, no lot of inflection there. And next slide, if we go and we start to look at what about, were people helpful? So first off, rate the helpfulness of the staff. 92% say either very or somewhat helpful. So not a ton of room for improvement there. And there is 7% who say not at all helpful, but very small number. And there's decent chance that that's someone who couldn't, I wanted you to reduce my rates or cut my bill or give me a rebate that you couldn't give. So keep in mind that they weren't helpful. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were rude. It could just mean they couldn't follow through on something that was an unrealistic request. Next up, during the past 12 months, have you contacted CR&R? And again, most people haven't, but a bigger chunk of people have. 1/3 of people have reached out to CR&R. I think we can, no, it's okay. I think we can go up the other way. Yeah, keep going, I think. This is, okay, there we go. So there's CR&R. You can put in slide 15 if you want. There we go. So, or 16. So, 1/3 have reached out to CR&R in some capacity. Again, very static. So this is great for programming staff and things like that. And then if you dive into the next slide, you'll find that 78% say that their issue is resolved in a timely manner. So they were pretty much happy with how that process went, interacting with CR&R. And again, this is among that 1/3 who've reached out to CR&R in some capacity. 19% said no. 19% said, again, I'm not happy with how it had happened. It didn't happen in a timely manner. Again, some of those could be genuine concerns that need to be addressed customer service wise. Others could just be unrealistically, they wouldn't, come take my Christmas tree in July or whatever the thing is that wouldn't line up. Yeah,
Related to this.
Yeah.
Why didn't we ask the question of the people that called CRNR and the people that called the district? Why did they call? Because I went through that entire 800 and something pages. And we don't have the information on why they made the call to begin with.
so I mean, there's a couple things there. One is we had some level of finite nature of questions, so we didn't, and that's certainly something if staff and the committee and the board decide they want next year, or next time, we certainly can include something like that. I think there's some trade-offs on a number of questions. I think the other thing is I assume there's some internal tracking mechanism, both with CRNR and the district, that tracks kind of the logic of why people called and how it was dispensed with. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I assume, and if not, that's something that could probably be implemented. So definitely tell us next time if you want us to include it or if you've got those stats internally.
Okay.
Okay, so then I think we're on slide, what is it here? Yeah, we're on 9 of experience. Where are we at? Okay, yeah, so go 39%, go up one. There we go. So 39% have experienced a time when their carts were not emptied on the regularly scheduled collection day. So more than a third said my collection day came and went and they didn't pick it up. Let's wait for the next slide because there's some explanation there. And this is also one we might want to consider changing the nature of the question because they answered the question truthfully, but it doesn't necessarily get to what I think you all are probably really looking for. And that is the next question is, what was the reason? And if you look down there, there's, they didn't arrive for service or it was like it was Christmas or it was New Year's or something like that. There's reasons why CRNR might not have shown up on a regular scheduled day because they weren't supposed to show up that day because they were, supposed to show up the next day. So there's reasons why that might be the case. But what's great here is the reasons why they didn't get picked up. These are kind of what we call homework. This is, the carts were blocked by a vehicle or obstruction. Okay, how do we do some education to make sure that doesn't happen again? Or we didn't put them out. Okay, well, that's your fault. I can't do much about that. So I think some of these things are easily dispensed with, but others can be addressed. They were emptied on a different day than scheduled, and of course because it was going to be the next day because it was New Year's. Okay, so next up, 77% of customers are aware of bulk trash collection. We basically detailed each of the different, some of the big programs you've got: bulk trash, door-to-door household hazardous and waste collection, sewer inspection program rebate. And you can see you've got high awareness. These are numbers at the top, and the darker is 2023, lighter is 2021. It's a little bit off from the previous year, but most people, vast majority of people know about the opportunity for bulk trash collection. And then more people this year know about door-to-door hazardous waste, and the same thing goes for sewer inspection rebate program. So this gives you a sense of familiarity and with the programs. So next up is 79% say they've used bulk trash collection, which is really significant to me. It's a big, high adoption of the people who knew about it, quite frankly, and otherwise you wouldn't have known about it. So most people in that program that knew about it have used it, big numbers. And then if you look at satisfaction with that pickup in the next slide, it's at 92%. So put it on the curb, they picked it up, I'm happy. Only 7% said they're unhappy. And the other thing that's kind of helpful is that, again, that guide, same numbers as last year, no real difference. Next, if they utilize the door-to-door hazardous waste collection program, you got 1% essentially that said yes, so most people know. But if you go to the next slide, we asked them, what about satisfaction with the program? 94%. So really high satisfaction with the door-to-door program. Again, very static numbers, maybe a little uptick there, but nothing really significantly different. And then the next slide shows us awareness and, satisfaction with the sewer inspection program. Have they utilized it in any capacity? Is 14%. So pretty small adoption there. Most people not. But then if you look at satisfaction on the next slide, it's really high, 75%. 13% say they're unhappy. And you can conjure why. Again, I don't want to, I don't ever want to dismiss people who are unhappy, but I also want to make clear that if they're unhappy, it's not just because somebody did something wrong. It could have just been that, you know, you're not going to pay for their new main line, their new connection or something like that.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. On these results of satisfaction, are you taking the pool size that is aware of the program?
No, it's among people who said yes, the people who were actually participated in the program in some capacity. Someone who actually had interaction with the program in the last year.
Okay.
Because they would have more exposure to it, more understanding of it. All right, slide 26. 91% are satisfied with the overall job Costa Mesa Sanitary District. So we kind of went through this. There's a little education process that wasn't the intention of this poll, but after we went through all these different things you're about, and the fact that CRNR is your collection partner, and the fact that you have all these programs, and you know, talking about who's responsible for the sewer connection, all those things. Now we get to a point where, hey, now you know what you know. How do you feel about the district? 91% say they're satisfied with the overall job that the district is doing. So those factors that we talked through didn't do anything negative. In fact, it made the numbers go up. So really high support and satisfaction for what you all do here at this building. And then next we get into some more, you know, novel things that we're talking about this time. And that is familiarity with 1383. We give them a very basic explanation of what it is. Most people say, or a small plurality say that they are familiar with the legislation. A big chunk of people say no. And you know, familiarity can be various different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you've read the bill. It's just, you know, you've heard it somewhere. So next up, slide 28, we say, okay, well, how often are you putting organics in the recycling cart? So they think they do a really good job. And so this is kind of what their expectation is. And I think you can say, Jess, this is what the individual taking the survey is saying. Maybe their evaluation of their household. Maybe it's an aspirational number to some degree. So just kind of keep all those things into account as you look through these numbers. But this is the expectation of your customers. So next up, 77% think it's important to separate organic waste to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we kind of gave them a little bit of background. 1383. Here's what it is. And here's the logic to it being methane causing, you know, climate pollutants in the atmosphere. So 77% say, yeah, based on that, it's important that we make that separation. 10% say, I don't care. And 10% say it's unimportant. Just don't bother. So that's, I think, a really high number. So you have you don't have a huge lift to get people to a place where, if you want them to be engaged on this subject and believe that it's an important thing to do, you don't have a hard way to get them there. They're already kind of there. What they're willing to do about it is a question we'll get to. Now we talk about a third cart, and 46% said they've heard of the idea, and 52% said that they haven't. So again, from an education standpoint, good, solid foundation, but a lot of work to do to get wider understanding of that. And then we asked them on the next slide, 65% say they support the implementation of a third cart. So do you support this thing? And again, we give them the details of why it's happening, 1383, what it's going to look like, even color wise. And 65% say they support it. That's an uptick, a little bump from 2001. And you have 21% they say they oppose it. You got a group that says it doesn't make a difference to them, but 65%. So you've got support again, more illustrated support for a third cart. Now, we say 75% say it's personally important to have a service for recycling products in their home. So they kind of we've kind of made this social contract in America in the last 30 years or so, 40 years, where we're supposed to not throw recyclables in the trash, and it's kind of it weighs on people. Even you don't have to be an environmentalist, you can just be a conservationist or just someone who cares. And so people want that ability to separate their trash. 75% of them do. Next up, we find that 42% support 2 pickup days. 39% oppose it. So we asked them, we said, hey, look, if we're going to do this through a cart system, limited space, you okay with the 2 days of a pickup, and 1 day for trash, another for recycling organics? And the plurality says yes, but you have a really big opposition there, kind of rival that support. It is kind of interesting. 16% say it makes no difference to them. They're probably not the ones taking the trash bins out. So you have a sense of that sort of thing. But, this isn't a bad place to start if policy was to move forward with it. But it's going to take a process if you're going to do that to get them to be supportive. Next up, 76% would not be willing to pay more. So we said, would you be willing to pay more for 2 pickup days a week to your home? 1 for trash, 1 for organics and recycling, because there's not enough space. And 15% say, yeah, I'm on board. 76% say they're not. I think it's important to point out this was a very basic question. We didn't say it's going to cost you 50 cents more a month or $5 more a month or $500 a year. We didn't put a dollar amount on it. So if we put a small dollar amount on it, chances are our numbers would have gone a whole lot higher for support and willing to pay. And if we put it just depends where that would go, but we wanted to get a baseline understanding, and clearly here they're just not on board with that. So next up, 62%, we ask them, how do you want to receive information from Costa Mesa Sanitary District? All these things throughout the survey, we've identified that there's opportunities for education, for outreach, for communicating with your customers to make sure they know the offerings you have and what the reality is of how the world works, that you're an independent special district. So they already told us they want to get mail. You're different. You are different than a lot of other cities and counties and special districts. Most people say email. They say, some sort of digital component. They, from you, want mail. So you've got to spend more money on mail than your other counterparts. You've got a little bit of an older, and keep in mind, by nature, the people we were talking to are homeowners or live in a single family home or that kind of environment. We're not talking to people who, are younger and maybe more transient. So it's just going to be an older demographic as it is. So they're going to want mail, most likely. They're going to be more interested in mail. But the other things you can't dismiss, like email, is obviously up there. So any of these things are fair game, but clearly it's going to be mail and email. And then we'll I can go a couple more slides down, and you can just see the demographics that are that is basically making up this element. Your trash customer is your trash customer is just the case, and they're largely homeowners. You've got some renters in there because you can rent one of those types of housing, but mostly owners, mostly older, and obviously it matches your service area, mostly Costa Mesa. I know that's a lot of data. I'm happy to answer questions and through staff get whatever other answers back if I don't have it tonight.
I have a question. How many people answered the survey?
So we're 1,000. We completed 1,000 surveys. Were there more than 1,000 completed in full fashion? There could have been some more.
1,000 is your reply.
Our goal was 1,000. and we report on 1,000. You know, in all the different modes, there could have been more or like partial completes, things like that. But we just report on the completes, the full completes, yeah. Yes, sir.
On the frequency of pickup days, I apologize, I don't know what problem, do you know, we're trying to address there?
Oh, I mean, staff can address that, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Are you referring to having a collection 2 days a week
Yeah.
versus 1 day a week? So the concern was adding a third cart curbside. There may not be sufficient room for all 3 carts to be collected on 1 day. Correct, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
It said in some areas though, like how much of a percentage of an area are we talking about? Because isn't the idea right now, people have, in theory, can have 2 organic carts and 2 mixed waste carts, and then they're supposed to get rid of the mixed waste cart and make 1 waste and 1, the blue cart for recyclables. So what more are we adding?
So for customers who don't have a lot of space, they may not have 4 carts. They might only have 2 carts currently. So they'd be going from 2 to a third. I couldn't tell you what percentage of the areas. I know we did a survey and there was one particular area. I don't know how many homes were in that area that had that particular issue with space constraints.
And then I know some of the newer, little pocket areas that have, like little townhome areas. And I know there's some houses on Placentia, but I was just trying to get an idea of like, is this a large amount of people we're trying to accommodate? Or is it a smaller amount of people that are going to kind of hose it for everybody who can get 2-day pickup because they have tight space? That's all I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I have a
Rosemary?
question. Do you have a heat map of where these respondents are located? District?
I don't, and part of that is because the multi-mode collection nature was we mailed people and we didn't necessarily have that individual's information, their personal address. But I do have IP addresses. We make sure there's no duplication. We do have for some because we directly outreach to them and they responded directly. But it was just as all these demographics are representative of the population that is a customer for trash, the geography is also the same way. It's appropriately proportioned.
But you don't know where they're at.
I mean,
You think they're
if you,
evenly spread?
I know they're evenly spread. I mean, I could create a heat map.
Okay.
But I don't have, I don't necessarily have every individual respondent's like street address. I have a general area, so I could create something like that,
But you're saying that you think that these respondents are spread throughout the district?
yes, and I'll tell you something else that I think. I think this is the demographics of your trash customers. I'm pretty darn sure. I think this is within a percentage point or 2, but no, there's no governing authority or census on what the homeowner, trash or renter, trash customer in Costa Mesa Sanitary District looks like. Because it's not, right, it's not census, it's not voter, it's the person who gets trash service from Costa Mesa Sanitary District. There's no like census of those people. So I'm telling you, this is what I believe is true, and I'm pretty darn sure. So just as much as I think that, there's an equal number of men and women, I'm confident that we have a appropriate dispersed.
You collected this from your respondents, right?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
That's how you male or female, age group,
Yes.
right? But you didn't collect their location.
So again, I have, for a lot of them, we have their actual
Oh.
physical location. For some of them, like someone could have called in and we didn't have their physical location when they called in. But I did get, what city they're in and things like that. So we have a very clear sense, but not a pinpoint sense. Yeah.
I have a question, and I don't know if this is a typo. I don't understand the math on some of these.
Okay.
I'm looking at all of these summary sheets at the end of each
Oh,
section of the
yes.
attachment.
Yes.
And for instance, on page 20 of that attachment, where it's, and so you guys know what I'm talking about, it looks like this. and it's results of favorability, satisfaction, such for CRNR, CMSD, wastewater. And it's based on a specific question. So it'll refer to whatever question number. This particular one I'm referring to is in reference to question 3. And it says satisfied with CRNR 87.1%, unsatisfied with CRNR 85.3%, unsure 50%. So, but then on this one, let me finish. Then on this one, it says satisfied is 94, unsatisfied or unsure, that adds up to 94. So I don't understand the math on this. Could you
If
explain
you
it,
go up
please?
one slide, so I can explain what these are. These are cross-tabulated results. Or let's go up 2 slides. Let's go up 1 more slide. So, so this is the question. So among men, 84% have heard of Elizabeth Sanitary District. Women are a little more educated at 86%. So this is the answer to this question among each of the demographic subgroups. And by the way, some of these subgroups are smaller, but they're not represented, that's not represented here. It's just among that group. So for instance, if I own a single family home in Costa Mesa or within the district, 91% of me have heard of Costa Mesa Sanitary District. So if we go up a little bit, we like to look at the data in all kinds of different ways. So if we go to the next slide tells me about how people knowledge of Costa Mesa, heard of Costa Mesa Sanitary District based upon the number of people in my house. This may be irrelevant data 99% of the time. But if you have been saying, okay, we want to have our maximum impact, we got $5,000 budget left at the end of the year. How do we get our maximum impact for raising awareness about our district? Well, maybe you're going to go to those 6+ households because
Renters with a lot of people in their house.
So I think that's maybe an odd example, but that's one of the ways utility to having the cross-tabulated results. So if you go to the next one, what we did here was, these are answers to questions. So we can go up a little bit. So this is, if they said their favorability, this is favorability is a question we asked later on. And favorability of satisfaction with CRR, those are questions we asked later on. But I'm already cross-tabulating it here. So for instance, if I am, satisfied with CRR, which we find out later, I'm 87% of me are familiar with Costa Mesa Sanitary District. So it's just a way of having data, but these numbers are not going to align with, familiarity or necessarily with favorability.
Well, like the previous slides that you showed that show the age demographics, whether they're owners or whatever, like
Yeah.
that, I get that. That makes sense. It's out of 100% of that particular group. The percentage knows, doesn't know, is unsure. But when you're talking about satisfaction, that's like, how do you have both? How do you have somebody, on this particular slide for this
Yeah.
particular question, how do you have 87% that are satisfied and 85% that are not satisfied? Like, that's crazy to me.
So these are.
Just trying to understand.
They're not merged. So among just the people who said they're satisfied with wastewater, that's all this is. You can't compare these to each other necessarily. So this is just among people who said they're satisfied with wastewater. 87% say they're familiar with the current district. Among the people who were unsatisfied, 75% are familiar with the district. So they're not necessarily, they're not related to each other, on top of each other, just independent of themselves.
Okay. That answers my question, because the math, like I said, the math on this slide didn't make sense like the math on the other slide. So, okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, because that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the people who have 9 members in their household. 100% of them have heard of this. They must be spreading the wealth around a little
Right.
bit.
They're on the telephone.
Only a few of those households, yeah.
Let's see. Some other questions. here somewhere. Does anybody else have questions while I look for mine?
We can go, yeah, actually, that's a good point. Can we go all the way up to the top where I had the?
Opportunity areas.
Yeah, yeah.
Page 14.
Oh. What do we have?
It was like a
Oh.
second slide, I think.
This one?
No, here, let's just, what we here.
And it was right there.
So key findings, we already kind of went over here, but and this just highlights the strong numbers. But items of opportunity, so we've got, improved trash collection, consistency, thoroughness, collect scheduled day. That's an obvious thing. It's what you do for a living. It's what you contract CNR to do. So can you make improvements? Is there room there in those numbers to make improvements? Of course you can. So I think that's one area of opportunity. And then increase customer awareness about programs like door to door and things like that. And quite frankly, about your political structure as well. So I think those are places where if you're asking us, we would say you might want to dedicate some resources. Obviously, you all and the board get to decide the actual spend, but these are places where we see opportunities come up.
How come you didn't include the percentages under the opportunity areas like you did for the good area?
I think, well, I mean, I think this is more clearly defined. Here you've got a couple questions that kind of speak to this subject. Like on improved trash collection. So, and some of them are like really highly segmented, like all the reasons why my trash didn't get picked up. So I didn't think we wanted to choose a number. I think it was just kind of a concept more than it is a number.
But you did give us numbers for carts that weren't empty or carts that were missed.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? No, I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Scott, is this item going to the board, or has the board already done what they're gonna do with it and have moved on with their lives?
The board has already received the presentation from Adam. And so next week, I meet with my staff to go over the numbers in detail and identify a plan on how to improve those numbers. What areas can we improve on and develop a plan and go from there.
Did the board have any, I guess I can ask you, did the board have any questions on anything that anyone's gonna circle back with them on? Or just moving forward at
The
this point?
board did have some questions on historical data, which was provided at the study session. And then the other request was to look at areas for improvement to kind of dive into the results and see what kind of outreach and education we can do based on those results. And then I believe that is going to be reported back.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Let me find the agenda. We can move to the next item. Like it's under here somewhere. Oh, thanks. Okay. We're going to CR&R fiscal year 2022-23 annual performance review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to turn this over to Marissa Paredes to give this report.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. So the district does conducts an annual performance review of CR&R to evaluate contract compliance and performance. And as the title indicates, the term that we are evaluating is July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Performance is graded using the scale excellent, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and not applicable. District staff found that CR&R demonstrated overall satisfactory compliance with 2 excellent ratings and 2 unsatisfactory areas noted for improvement. Summary highlights of the performance review are as follows. Area 1, services to be provided and term. CR&R did furnish all labor and equipment to collect and dispose of solid waste from CMSD customers and did confirm that all materials were transported to the MRF, AD facility, or Orange County landfill sites. Area 2, haulers compensation. Per the district's agreement with CRNR, the district's per unit net to hauler payment must be within 10% of the county average. The district's per unit net to hauler payment is $19.34, and the county average is $22.56, which puts it within that 10% range. CRNR did submit a CPI adjustment request, and the board approved a 5% CPI increase for fiscal year 23-24. Area 3, records, reports, reviews, and audits. CRNR sends the district month-end reports by the 7th of each month as required by contract. The agreement also requires a 50% diversion rate. The district's diversion rate is currently 61, or as of fiscal year 22-23, the 61.14%, which is well above the 50% requirement. Area 4, operations. CRNR typically replaces damaged carts within 1 week, provides CNG-powered vehicles as required, and displays CMSD banners on collection trucks. The contract liaison received an excellent rating for continuing to provide excellent customer service. CRNR's office hours are 1 hour more than required by contract, and the district's customer service designee responds promptly to customer and staff requests. Area 5, insurance, bonds, and indemnification. The district did not request the assessment of contamination processing fees during the review period. Area 6, default and damages. The district did not present liquidated damages to CRNR during the review period. Area 7, collection schedule. During the year in review, a total of 538 missed collection complaints were received via GoGov. This is a 29.86% decrease from the previous review period, and the first time that missed collections are trending down in 4 years. Area 8, special programs. The Christmas tree collection program was greatly improved from the previous year with only 2 complaints received. The large item collection program did receive an unsatisfactory rating due to extreme delays. Wait times were anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks for at least the first 6 months of the review period. Improvement was made, but further improvement is needed. Community outreach programs also received an unsatisfactory rating. The sustainability specialist assigned to the district should be dedicating approximately 20 hours per week to promoting solid waste diversion programs as required by the contract. Substantially more outreach is required to be in compliance with this aspect of the contract. One note of excellence from this area is the annual compost event. CRNR provided compost, as well as 8 volunteers to help make this event a success. Area 9, miscellaneous. The district completed negotiations with CRNR and entered into the First Amendment to the agreement on January 27th, 2023. This concludes the overall highlights of the report, and staff is now available to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions before I go? Maybe you guys will hit some of them and I don't have to ask.
Just was curious, the 50% diversion target, is
Mhm.
that like an old AB 939 thing?
I don't know when that went into the contract. Yeah.
And then, with the, as of January 1st, 24, with the enforcement of SB 1383, would we expect a percent diversion of organic?
Would we expect what? I'm sorry?
A measure of percentage of organics diverted?
So organics is included in this diversion number. So this is the mixed waste. Well, the 61.14 includes the organics and mixed waste, yes.
I'm going by memory here, but I feel like 1383 has a percent organics diversion,
There's a goal of
Right.
75%.
which is separate from the bigger lump. And I was just curious if that's something that we were planning on measuring individually, or maybe it's unnecessary.
If we break out the diversion between the 2 programs, organics right now is 95%. If we're just breaking out organics data that's provided by CRNR, it's approximately 95%.
95% of the 60%?
95% of all of organics, approximately 95% are diverted. And then that is combined with the mixed waste diversion to give you that 61.14.
Thank you.
And to piggyback on your questioning on the 50% diversion, that was the AB 939 goal, right? So still, obviously, the district's goal is to get 75% diversion. So that's what we're trying to hit is really 75%.
Thank you.
I have a question. Why was there significant delay in the large item pickup and what has been done to improve?
During the contract or during the year in review, the CRNR did add an additional, I believe, truck and route, which did improve it from about 4 weeks to 2 weeks, but there were still delays of up to 3 weeks during that period. This is only reviewing the last fiscal year, so I don't have data yet on the change from last fiscal year to the current. But from what I've seen recently, the wait hasn't been 4 weeks.
And I can add to that, I think drivers were an issue. I think they were having a hard time finding drivers at that time. So I think that played a significant role for the delays.
I just wanted to say thank you. Hearing the previous survey about how great their service was, I kept thinking about bulky item, and my family, we had to self-haul to the dump because they were not able to pick up. I mean, they were giving me that 3-4 week delay, which I personally think is unacceptable and probably increases the likelihood of dumping, where people are just putting stuff out on the curb or driving it around the neighborhood and who knows what. So I really do appreciate seeing this. And I'm really surprised of a 95% organics diversion rate. Like, it's not only incredible, but almost unbelievable. 95%.
I think it's testament to our community and the anaerobic digestion program. It's simple. It's easy.
There you go.
I have a few questions, actually. The first one is, the 5% CPI increase adjustment, what was that in dollars? And does that amount change what the per unit net to hauler payment is?
I'd have to look up the staff report from last year, what the dollar amount was. I don't recall. I'd get back to you on that one. I'm sorry, the second part of the question.
So whatever that 5% increase was, the CPI adjustment to CRNR, is that then calculated into the net to hauler payment?
Yes, it is.
So what is it now? If it was 1934 and the average was 2256.
We're going back from last fiscal.
Yeah,
year. I
so
don't
this
know
is
what it
based on
now.
last
I'd have to come
fiscal
back to you on
year.
what it is now.
So the increase would have gone into effect July 1. So it wouldn't have been accounted for in this. So I'd have to you want to know what it is
Well,
current?
no, I'm just curious because it shows that we were below what the average for the county is, but then there was a 5% increase. So I'm just wondering where we are for the county now. Like, where do we fall on the list with the 5% increase? Are we still below the county average? Are we above it? It doesn't say here.
Back to you on
So
that.
that's something that would be, I mean, we can look at it, but it would be reported in the next review period. We'd be looking at the current fiscal year with that 5% increase to calculate.
We can calculate.
Okay.
We don't have to,
You don't have it here, but you know what it is.
Yes, we can calculate.
Okay,
and give-
that's, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
And I'm kind of curious to know a little bit more about the CPI that was used. Like, is it linked to one particular, like a county CPI or a national CPI or a split sort of thing?
It's based on the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim area consumer price.
And that's the only CPI that's used for these intervals?
Correct.
Thank you.
And then under operations, it says that the carts are typically replaced within 1 week, but there was an exception because there were 3 months worth of delays. Was that they had to order new carts?
Again, I think it was a drivers, because I had to deliver the carts out to them. So there was for significant time, there were the CNR, and actually the solid waste industry in itself was having a hard time finding drivers. So that was some reason why you've seen a lot of delays from last year.
Okay, because I thought it was a typo because you guys were talking about 3 weeks for the other, like the large hauler stuff, and I honestly thought it was a typo. Okay, so it was a driver issue. For the insurance bond indemnifications and default on damages that you guys didn't submit, is it because you didn't you have any to submit, or do you just generally not submit them to be part of this? I didn't understand that. On section 5,
Are you referring to the contamination processing fees?
yeah, that and number 6, the default and damages, it just said,
So for contamination processing fees, the district didn't request that those be assessed during that reporting period. So there was nothing to report for that. And then you're referring to the other items in section 6?
what, but I mean, is that normal practice for this? Or do you guys never ask for that information? I'm just trying to understand that if it's on here and you guys don't ask for it, why?
Are you referring?
You ask for it somewhere else.
Are you which item are you referring to?
Either one, at 5 or 6, it was the same. Yeah, I'm just, I'm,
Whether there were, because there may not have been any default and damages.
but it doesn't say that. That's why I'm asking. I'm just trying to understand it. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just trying to understand.
In certain cases, yes, if there's nothing reported or listed, then it's.
Then there's nothing to
then there's
report.
nothing to report or list. So.
O- okay.
If you're wanting kind of a more specific answer, like, do you want to see in the report where it's actually saying nothing to report for this specific item?
Well, that, I mean, honestly, that would have just made it more clear to
Okay.
me that there was nothing to report as opposed to didn't request the assessment of contamination processing fees to review during the period. That's all I was trying to understand is that common practice or was there just nothing to report? Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We,
Typically, and I'm just speaking because I'm in the insurance business, we wouldn't request copies of insurance or certificates of insurance because we're included in their agreement, okay? We're additional insureds with them. So we're notified at renewal time of their policy, which is typically the first of the year. And unless something goes wrong, then we get notified. So there's no reason for us to, as far as I can tell, there's no reason for us to request it because we're already included in their coverages.
okay, that's beautiful. Thank you. That makes sense to me. Well, no, but that makes perfect sense, to me. And then
Kidding.
this other question I have, we kind of talked about it before the meeting, but I think we should talk about it in front of the CAC so everybody knows. Where it talks about the collection schedule and there were a total of 530 missed collection complaints reported to GoGov. But as we just heard in the community survey that was done, 82% of the people who contacted CR&R did it by telephone. 75 or whatever it was people, or 72% I think of it was of the people who contacted the sanitary district, it was by telephone. So I know now that when somebody calls the district to report a missed trash pickup, Marissa enters it in to GoGov, which is what's referenced here on number 7. But none of the calls that are going to CR&R are being tracked anywhere. So how do we know how many actual missed trash pickups we have if we're not tracking phone calls? Now, Marissa did also share with me, and this is good information, that last year it was 700 and something missed pickups recorded on GoGov. They weren't tracking phone calls then either from CR&R. And so, in my opinion, this is inaccurate. We don't really know how many missed pickups there are, which is kind of why I asked the question for the survey. We're calling people and asking them if they contacted the district, and we're asking them if they were happy with the result, but we aren't even asking them why they called to begin with. And that seems a little bit odd to me. And I'm just looking for some comments from you, or because It's-
We meet with CNR on a monthly basis, the operations committee with, which is, staff and CNR staff. And we'll bring this up on the next committee and inquire, how are they tracking, phone calls coming in? Are they tracking it somewhere, or are they just taking the calls and then immediately taking action? We'll inquire that in our next operation meeting. I'll report out to you what we found.
Because I know, like, before, this has been a topic with me and people get irritated with it, and sorry, not sorry, but there were issues and it's been fixed since, I want to say that, few years ago, or it wasn't even a few years ago, it was well after the pandemic, so it was a couple years ago, where entire neighborhoods were getting missed on a consistent basis. And I would call it in and they would say, they would count it as one missed pickup, although there were 200 houses that got missed. I don't think that's accurate reporting. You said that you guys have a way to do that now to keep track of neighborhoods, which is great. I don't know that we can take CR&R on their honor if they're not telling us. You know, I'm not saying they're lying, but if we're not asking the question, then, you know, we don't have correct information.
Valid question, it's a good point, and unfortunately, I just don't have an answer for you tonight. So I did jot it down as my notes, so it's another question that we'll get back to you at a later time.
And then the last question was the sustainability specialist. Basically 20 hours of half of their work week is supposed to be dedicated to solid waste diversion programs at the district, and that didn't happen. What is the reason for that?
We don't quite know why the reason is, and that is one of the stipulations in our liquidated damages that we can apply to CNR. So my staff is going to be meeting here real soon to look at, if you saw their new contract, there's a list of liquidated damages that we could apply to CNR. Having their community outreach hours, not spending 20 hours a week is one of those. So we need to calculate how many weeks did they not spend 20 hours a week, and then look at that chart. Okay, how much can we charge back to CNR for not fulfilling that part of the agreement? So that's the one mechanism we're using to hold their feet to the fire as far as complying with that part of the contract.
Okay, that's good. So you guys will get credit for that. Because I looked at that, and as an HR person, I'm like, wait a second, that's literally like over 1,000 hours of work you were supposed to get from someone that you didn't.
Right.
Assuming they didn't do any work, which obviously I'm imagine is not the case. But okay, so you guys can get credit for that.
I would also like to add, we are working with a new sustainability specialist that started, I believe, around May. And they are working on some cart-to-cart audits and directed outreach for those audits. And so that's one component of this 20 hours. But staff is also brainstorming, and we're going to be meeting with them to come up with ideas and what they can do to fulfill those 20 hours. So we are actively working on that.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else have any questions?
What I wanted to say, I know you're talking about liquidated damages and money, but I actually would like to see that time back, because I do think that there's more work that needs to be done, especially with the requirements of 1383, and then looking at what people or what customers know about what's required of them or what they need to do. So I think that aside from just the dollars that could come back to the district, I actually would prefer seeing the hours come back to the district.
Anybody else? Nope. All right. Move on to events 2024.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request by the Citizens Advisory Committee to receive a list of all the events that the district will be participating in 2024. And so before you is that list of events that we'll be participating in. And as you can see, it's quite robust. I do want to mention in this list is that we have scheduled our town hall meetings for the 3-cart system. They are set in August and October. We don't have a location established at this point, but we do have the dates. So these are the town hall meetings where we're going to go out throughout the community, describe about the blue card system, what goes in the blue cards, how the blue cards can be delivered, talk about 1383. This is a great opportunity. We'd love to have members of the CAC there as well. Maybe we can also help answer some questions, but just want to hopefully you can put that on your calendar on the town hall meetings. So yeah, and then we also another big event is the shredding composting event. So we are going to shred this year in addition to composting. So that is set for June 8th, I believe. And so that's another big date to put on your calendar as well.
Where does the compost come from?
Comes from the organic recycling program from CRNR. So all the materials that some of the materials that's diverted is brought back, for composting, yes.
Could you guys email that list out to us? I didn't see it. I'm backed up on emails though from the first of the year, so.
Sure, we could email it to you.
If you did, thank you, and I will find it. If you did not, if you could send it to me, that would be great. And then, fiscal year 2023-2024 work plan update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just an update. These items on the staff report were originally supposed to be presented to you tonight, but they've been postponed or delayed for specific reasons. I do just want to touch base on the solid waste rate study, which I'm sure you're highly anticipated, looking forward to reviewing. That is, we have a kickoff meeting with our consultant next week. And so we anticipate bringing the preliminary findings to you for your comments, suggestions. I believe on here, I said at your May 8th meeting, but we might move that earlier because there is a timing issue to getting these rates approved through the Prop 218 process and getting it on the property tax roll by August of this year. So stay on the lookout for that. So that's going to be coming your way here real soon. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions? Francesca? Nope. Okay, think we're good. We can move on to closing items. Committee member comments. Let's start down there. Rosemary, anything? Ms. Brenneman?
Would staff prefer to, do you want us to wait until you reach out to us about these events, or do you want us to let you know at this point our availability?
If you already know you're available and which events you'd like to work, you can definitely let us know and we'll take note.
And then, I just wanted to say it's nice to see the landscaping project moving forward, finally. Yay. It's already been good.
Don't look like an abandoned building.
Yeah. I was just going to go down.
Jeff, do you have anything?
Thank you for the great work. That's all. Thank you.
You're good? Vicky?
Nope.
Anything? Dean? Anything? I have one question. When is the liaison meeting for, with the city?
A week from next Friday. It's January 19th, and we are the host agency, so it's going to be here at 8 o'clock in the morning.
What time?
8 o'clock.
Okay. And then, I was given this list. I just want to remind everybody that, please go over your guidelines for being a CAC member and, as it relates to attending meetings, if you're not going to be at a meeting, we need to make sure that everybody's attending at least one board-related meeting. It can be, you can call in and listen on the phone. It can be via Zoom. It could be in person, but we all agreed that we would do that at least one a year, and they have plenty of meetings. So please take a look at your calendar and see when you can do that. We have a lot of people that have missed a lot of meetings, so I'm just gonna basically pass this over to the board because it's their decision on what they want to do. This is a volunteer position and everybody is giving their time and it's appreciated by everyone. Things are gonna come up, you're gonna have conflicts, you're gonna be on vacation, you're gonna have emergencies, all of those things. Like, that's just part of the program. But please make sure that you're letting somebody know when you're not going to be available. And, you know, moving forward, we can all do the best job possible to, you know, be here. It's literally 6 meetings a year. So, you know, if we're missing like 5 of those, that's problematic. And that's it. I just want to say thank you to you guys for everything you do and all the information you provided. Francesca, did you have anything? Nope. It's nice to see your face up there on the screen.
Sorry, I have a cold I'm getting over with, so I didn't want to get anyone sick.
And we all appreciate that. Board, staff, any comments? Nada. Okay, let's adjourn the meeting, and our next meeting will be March sometime. March 13th, 6 p.m. Hope to see you all there or there. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.